politics. No farmer's success should die in a pothole. No entrepreneur's dream should end at the flickering edge of unreliable. It will be a place of fairness, of transparency, and justice. We must seek not just legal reform, but moral clarity. We have a pillar and need governance and anti-corruption commitment. Under the present leadership, Liberia seeks to build a functional state, a Liberia that works for all, a Liberia where leaders serve the people and where accountability is not a campaign promise, but a daily practice. The President's agenda is committed to environmental sustainability. We have to farm the land, yes, but also we have to protect it. So let us mine with wisdom, fish with restraint, and pass on to our children a Liberia still green, still rich, still alive. A Liberian soil so nutrient-dense that, in the words of Ambassador Anderson, you spit an orange seed out today and it's a fully grown tree tomorrow. We must have a commitment to human capital development. The people must be the plan, you see. I repeat, the people must be the plan. I have encountered too many workforce development plans across the years that issue certificates but create no jobs, or jobs paying less than it takes to live. We must train, educate, heal, and empower every Liberian, especially the women, the youth, the disabled. There is no transformation without liberation. A chain is no stronger, as the saying goes, than what? Is weakest link, right? When we speak of investing in Liberia, we are not speaking simply of capital flows, although this is necessary. We are speaking of life flows, right? We're speaking of a nation not asking for charity, but inviting partnership. A nation not defined by war or want, but by our determination to secure a shared prosperity for all. But we can't do this alone. None of us can. We can't do this as individuals merely looking for our piece of the pie, although there is enough pie to go around. For too long, you see, the African continent and her scattered children in the Americas, the Caribbean, and Europe have been kept apart. We've been kept apart by force, by design, by ideology. The divide and conquer strategies of colonialism did not end with the flags being lowered. They continue through policies, through propaganda, through systems that pit West against East, Anglophone against Francophone, and most disturbingly, African against Afro-descendant. These policies, these propagandas, these systems, they pitted us against us. But we remember, you see, we remember that Marcus Garvey, great Pan-Africanist, never gave up on Liberia. And a Pan-Africanist vision of black solidarity, that the Pan-Africanist W.E.B. Du Bois lies buried not in the States, but in God. That Kwame Nkrumah, that Malcolm X and Frantz Fanon spoke the same freedom in different tongues. We remember Fannie Lou Hamer's cry, nobody's free until everybody's free. We remember that Ida B. Wells and Marcus Garvey envisioned black enterprise and innovation not as imitation of the West, but as assertion of African excellence. Genius from the cradle of civilization, the wonder of God made manifest in us. Today we say one of the most profound black American poets of our day, Kendrick Lamar, let the Willie Lynch theory reverse a million times. In other words, let us commit to the divisions between us ending here. Let a Liberian-inspired Pan-Africanist reunion begin now with us. To our brothers and sisters in the African diaspora, Liberia is your home. Not metaphorically, literally the land of return, the beacon of black nationalism. This land was founded in part with your blood, your vision, your yearning to be free, like the Cooks, Johnsons, Rosses, and McGills who stepped onto the good ship Elizabeth and home again onto Liberian soil. And now we're called upon to take similar steps of faith through investment in our country, not just of money, but of mind, heart, and the sweat of our labor. Let us build companies together. Let us invest in health, education, logistics, real estate, renewable energy, and agro-processing together. Let us design schools that teach both the pragmatism of Booker T. Washington, the visionary orientation of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. Let us lay cables and pipelines and railroads, not for extraction, but for elevation of our people and our country. As we gather here in Monrovia, we do so in a world that is shifting. The so-called developed world is facing economic stagnation, political polarization, and moral decay. Meanwhile, Africa, the youngest, fastest growing, most resource-rich continent on the face of the earth, is rising. But our rise must not imitate their rule. That would be tragic. We are not here to beg for inclusion in a rigged system. We're here to create a new system altogether. A new majority world order of inclusion and shared prosperity, not a world that is of, by, and for the uber rich. A world where just 8 individuals hold more wealth than half of the entire global population. Think about it. This is not the world that we're trying to create. So let me close with just a few remembrances, as the late great Toni Morrison used to put it. Dr. King said, we are faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. There's no time to delay. We must act now. Garvey said, a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. How can a people stand against the storms of white supremacy, fascism, and plutocracy sweeping across our lands? W.E.B. Du Bois, who had quit America and died in Ghana on the eve of Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech delivered on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1963, said America will destroy ignorance, or ignorance will destroy America. And now we are witness, as Malcolm put it, to the chickens coming home to roost. Similarly, either Africa will unite to build or be divided to fall, as the imperial powers of Europe have conspired to do for the 5 centuries and counting so far. In the spirit of Ida B. Wells, we will expose injustice and light the path. In the spirit of Fannie Lou Hamer, we will speak truth to power, unbound and unbought. In the spirit of Malcolm, we will claim that it is ours, what is ours, by any means necessary. And in the spirit of the ancestors whose bones are scattered across oceans, plantations, and battlefields, we will rise. So let us move from trauma to triumph, from scarcity to sovereignty, from disunity to destiny. Liberia stands ready. Africa stands ready. The diaspora is returning. And together we will arrest poverty, we will arrest dependency, and we will arrest despair. Together we will invest in freedom and lift Liberia as a light unto the world. Thank you.
That was inspiring. Dr. Cole, thank you so much. You know, when we get in a gathering like this, and especially now that we have our Liberian national television carrying this live, we want to be inspired. And those words certainly inspired all of us in the room. Thank you so much. And what a great segue backwards. As we call on Mr. Daniel Maxwell, he's with the National Investment Commission. He is the Director of Investment Promotions, and would like him to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Now let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. There we go. We're a bunch of people with energy, aren't we? Exactly. My name is Dan Maxwell Jr. I work with the National Investment Commission as Director for Investment Promotions. So as the government's lead agency for investment promotion and facilitation, we are really excited to be here and really appreciative of the work that has gone into making this happen, as Ambassador said. And yes, let's give ourselves a hand. Because the story continues, and it needs to continue to be told that Liberia is open for business and that there are opportunities. Now, in my work, in my day-to-day work with investors, I remind them that in as much as we are open for business, we are not without challenges, as Ambassador Anderson alluded to. And so if you're coming into Liberia, I want you to come in with the mindset that, hey, the ROIs may not be as high as in some other markets, but I want you to focus on the impact, the jobs, as Dr. Cook mentioned, the environment, the fact that your work will preserve one of the last standing rainforests in the world. These are the things that we sell, the human impact. And that is what we're here about. So as you spend these 2-3 days, I want you to soak it all in, explore the opportunities. There will be panel discussions, there will be times for interactions, ask questions. We may not have all the answers right now, but I promise you, that's what my office gets paid to do, and we'll find the answers if we don't have them. So thank you again, and welcome to this Liberia Investment Conference 2025. Thank you.
Maxwell, you are truly from the National Investment. I'm sure everyone here got some kind of a sign about what you can do in Liberia in terms of it. But the other show why you to speak. Thank you very much. And Dr. Folk, thank you. When I was listening, I thought we had a reincarnation of Martin Luther King. So we'll go to our development partner, particularly the UN system. And we now like to call on Mr. Aliyu Mamadou Dia. He's a resident representative of the United Nations Development Program in Liberia. Very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. When I was listening to Dr. Cook, I was wondering if I have anything to say anymore, because I think it was such an inspirational talk. Thank you, Dr. Cook, for really the great speech. Your Excellency, I would say, members of cabinet, ministers, members of the House, members of the diplomatic corps, leaders of the private sector, distinguished development partners, esteemed investors, ladies and gentlemen. It is truly a privilege to stand before you today on behalf of the United Nations Development Program at this crucial Liberia Investment Conference. Let me begin by commending the government of Liberia for its leadership in convening this platform at a time when Liberia's ambition for growth, for prosperity and transformation demand bold action and strategic partnership. The presence of all of you today, development partners, investors, the government officials, reflects a national consensus. Liberia is serious about investment and Liberia is ready for business. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Liberia's potential is well known. Vast arable land waiting for sustainable abundant natural resource that, if managed responsibly, can finance generations. A youthful, entrepreneurial population that is eager for opportunity. A strategic location with access to key West African and global markets. Untapped potential in renewable energy, in tourism, digital infrastructure and light manufacturing. But as you know, potential alone does not create jobs. It does not generate revenue. It does not transform lives. Investment does. The challenge before us and the opportunity is to turn this potential into bankable projects, investable enterprises, and transformative partnerships. This is why UNDP is here, not just as a development partner, but as a solution partner. A partner committed to help Liberia unlock the full value of private sector-led, inclusive and sustainable growth. Let me leave you with three key messages today. The first one is investment is not a choice between profit and development. It's about aligning both. Liberia's growth story must be inclusive. It must deliver not just return to shareholders, but tangible benefit to Liberian workers, communities, and entrepreneurs. This is the promise of the AAID. Growth that is broad-based, equitable, and sustainable. UNDP stands ready to work with the government and the private sector to ensure investment in Liberia create jobs, enhance skills, protect the environment, and leave no one behind. The second message is the enabling environment matters, and I think Dr. Cook has referred to that. Investors need certainty. They need clear rules. They need transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. Liberia's ongoing effort to strengthen its legal and regulatory frameworks, improve public financial management, fight corruption, and enhance infrastructure are critical steps in the right direction. But reforms must not only be adopted, they must be implemented. UNDP is so proud to support these efforts because strong institutions and sound governance are the foundation of thriving investment climate. The third message I want to leave with you is partnership drive progress. No single actor, government, private sector, development partners or civil society can deliver transformation alone. We know that. The most successful investment climates are those where public and private sectors work hand in hand, where risks are shared, where policies are predictable, and where dialogue is open and constructive. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, UNDP brings not only technical expertise, but a global network of knowledge, innovation, and experience. Across Africa and beyond, we have seen how targeted investment, for example, in agriculture, in digital technology, in clean energy, and women and youth entrepreneurship have transformed economies and lifted millions out of poverty. Liberia can and must be part of this success story. The next chapter for Liberia is about transformation. It is about shifting from dependence on aid to growth through trade and investment. From exporting raw commodities to adding value locally, from informal survival to formal enterprise, from vulnerability to resilience. To the investors in the room here today, I want to say that Liberia is not offering a perfect market. Let me repeat that. Liberia is not offering a perfect market. By the way, no country does. But Liberia offers something of immense value. Opportunity paired with leadership committed to reform and progress. That's what Liberia is offering. So take the opportunity, take the momentum on that. To the government, I urge you to continue to push the frontiers of reform. Investors can handle risks, but not surprises. Your leadership, the government leadership, in creating a stable, predictable, and transparent business environment will be the most powerful signal you can send to the world. To our development partners, I want to say, let us leverage our resources, align our strategies, and crowd in private capital that complement public investment to accelerate sustainable growth. Excellencies, looking ahead, I wish to reaffirm to Ambassador Anderson, to Madam Cooper, and to the NIC. I wish to reaffirm UNDP's commitment to working alongside with you, with the government of Liberia, through the National Investment Commission, NOVA, to make the Liberia Investment Conference an annual platform for action. To make the Liberia Investment Conference an annual platform for action, for connection, and for progress. We will continue to bring our expertise, our networks, our resources to ensure this conference grows each year in impact and ambition, attracting new partners, unlocking new opportunities, and turning dialogue into concrete investment that delivers the real change for the people of Liberia. I thank you for your kind attention.
Indeed, the United Nations system has been a reliable partner to Liberia, especially during this dispensation. We see the clear-cut visibility that comes with at every national event, in the foundation of our development plan. In fact, the UN resident coordinator co-chairs the committee that put our national development plan together. So we want to thank the United Nations system for such visibility. I'm sure the master ceremony before I could come recognized officials of government who were coming in. So I'd like to continue on that part to say we saw somebody coming in that we brought onto the platform. It's Senator Nimene Patikwa from Grand Crew Country, and that's why we're taking the Senator, welcome. So we'd now like to invite the big person for the whole UN system in Liberia, Madam Christy Omotoli, for remarks. She is the United Nations resident coordinator in Liberia. Madam Coordinator, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. Honorable ministers, government partners, the investors, all invited, allow me to stand on the existing protocols. My dear colleagues from the UN, on behalf of the UN family,
2025 Liberia Investment Conference. And of course, and you have said quite a lot, but normally when there are two or more agencies supporting something, the coordination kicks in. So I saw that UNDP has particularly supported this conference. The Economic Commission have supported this conference. In the UN system, actually, these two work very closely together on economic issues. But also we have other agencies, and I see IFAD here. IFAD is very strong on agricultural investments, and other agencies also come in. So it's my honor to really be here and see, we see for ourselves this networking and how the UN as a system can leverage on the know-how and the comparative advantage of each agency on specific issues, how we can accompany this country. I really want to commend the government of Liberia and the partners for organizing this, and the theme, building sustainable partnership for prosperity, unlocking Liberia's investment frontiers, really comes at a great time. It's a critical juncture, a defining moment to catalyze responsible investments, forge resilient partnerships, and unlock Liberia's economic potential through sustainable, inclusive, climate-smart strategies, and so on. Many of you have really spoken to this theme quite well. And we mentioned about how all of us were running behind the country as you were designing your own national plan. So through it we see that there is a clear vision under the AAID and bold ambitions that both require lots of transformations, structural transformations to achieve the plan. So the UN and partners commend this. For me, I want to say that Liberia is actually ready. We've seen quite a lot, including the peaceful democratic transitions of power that we don't take for granted, and the Liberia becoming a non-permanent member at the UN Security Council. All these things are statements of this growing global leadership in peace and diplomacy. Believe me or not, these are critical building blocks to have an environment where you can attract investors. So we have to hold on this Liberia's place at the global diplomacy to pull as much interest in the country as possible. So it's very interesting to be in this country now, and we are all eager to see how the country will benefit from the peace dividends and how it will benefit from its youthful population, and how this can translate in economic transformation in the bold vision of a middle-income Liberia, as we see the ambition outlined in the AID. So we all see, and from all the different speeches in the various fora, that foundations for transformation and growth in Liberia are there. The government's commitment to accelerate development, the sustained peace, the youthful population, the natural resources, the agricultural base, renewable energy, potential and infrastructure opportunities. All these really are a compelling case for investment. We all know, though, that unlocking these frontiers requires transparent and accountable investment environment powered by transformative technology. We have all talked about the need for stronger institutions and rule of law, climate resilient and social inclusion, innovative integrated financing mechanisms, and more. I think those who spoke before me made it clear. So, as we see this AID providing the national roadmap that all of us partners, including the private sector, and all of us in the partners of this country must follow, let us, unpack everything and see how we fit in. For the UN, we are working on a UN cooperation framework, which is going to be fully aligned with the AID to make sure that we follow the vision and the priorities of the country. And so, as we all work together, and I think you mentioned it very well, how it should be an integrated approach, where all of us look at the plan together. As we embark on the implementation, we cannot help but ask, where will the finance to implement the plan come from? We have been told over the years that we are poor and we need aid to bail us out. And now aid is gone or is going. What shall we do? I was sitting there and remembering myself as a young girl. We used to be in the debating club, and sometimes the topic would be Africa is poor because it's poor. Discuss. Anyone remembers this in high school? And we are here. 50 years ago, we are still discussing. So I think the issue is, where is the secret? How can we unlock this? So I was looking at some of the speeches that the Office of the Special Advisor on Africa was giving us previously in the Development Partners Retreat. And there are such very interesting, revealing numbers that show that actually Africa is not poor because it's poor. The continent generates over $2.3 trillion annually, 100 billion remittances, private savings is like 427 billion, and these are things that have been researched. Foreign wealth funds, 24 billion, pension funds, 1.3 trillion, public revenues, 483 billion. Yet due to either, capacity gaps, inefficiencies, debt vulnerability, illicit flows, are estimated to be over 500 billion annually. So it means that there is no lack of money, but where is the money going? It's a huge question. Much of the wealth fails to translate into development outcomes. So we have to see why. How can we make that correct? We must pivot from an aid-dependent paradigm to one that sees Africa, and particularly since we are in Liberia, that sees Liberia as a capable, resource-rich player in the global economy. So we must, and I insist, fuel a new paradigm shift rooted in domestic resource mobilization, value chain transformation, investment-led job creation. And why do I insist? It's because everything starts from the mind, the decolonization of the mind, the belief in oneself. Because the story told many times in generations to come until you believe it. I know it from the gender journey. Women were told for many years that we are not capable, until you almost fear yourself and you think you are incapable, until you step in the shoes and you say, oh wow, this is not the truth. So I think for any changes in that journey, we must relook, we must sort of disrupt things, and from there, then the numbers show us that there are resources to tap into. Quickly, maybe to say that also the fifth industrial revolution, shaped by technology, we must be aware of these things. You know, every day I talk to my children and I see how they are into technology. It shows that our continent also, we leapfrog if we take things like fintech, artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, automation. You know, these are things, they are there. We have to capture them to see how we unlock our potentials. And I think here we have more experts than me on these things. I'm just, reading from a few things that we research. So this revolution rewards countries that are agile, digital literate, and innovative ready. So Liberia, as we get into these conversations, are we ready? And we have examples, even very close in Africa, when you go to Kenya and you see the M-Pesa and how it has revolutionized the financial inclusion, 30 million users. When you go to Ghana and you see the zipline, or even Rwanda, drones delivering medical supplies, cutting waiting times from hours. When you see the startups that are coming up, so there is hope. Liberia must seize this momentum to leapfrog into smart development pathways powered by digital innovation and sustainable investment. The United Nations and our partners in Liberia, as already mentioned, stand ready in many areas: human capital development, good government, smart agriculture, digital governance, innovation finance models, private sector development and job creation, and more, to really work together with this country. Ladies and gentlemen, really, let's leave this conference with concrete partnerships, bankable deals, action plans, and see what could be done to move the country forward. So really, we get to conferences and the themes are very catchy and very good, unlocking Liberia's investment frontiers. If we sit here and unpack that, what does that mean in action? What is the role of each stakeholder sitting here, from government, diaspora, investors, and all the partners? What are the short-term actions, that we can embark on, can initiate right now? What are the synergies and the systematic changes we need for both short-term and long-term? So anyway, let us challenge the status quo. The conference offers a moment to recommit ourselves, and too often let's stop just big words and all that, but translate all this into things that can benefit our people. And let us again try to see what are the missing links, what can we do better. I think Asia offers good examples of countries that moved from A to B in not so long a time. How can we have that sort of cooperation to learn from each other between African countries or between other nations? So as I close again, we recommend, and the suggestion that our UNDP colleagues have said, reaffirmed by ECA and other partners, to support this as an annual event that brings all these ideas together, but beyond a conference, actions that come out of it that can be really implemented, so that we come from ideas to investments to shape a resilient, inclusive, and prosperous Liberia is what we can offer as partners. But what we know is that Liberia is in the lead. Liberia is ready. Sometimes it's Liberians who know. When you know, you know. When you know, you know. And you can tell that it's the right time to do something. So all of us, partners, and especially on behalf of the UN, we are ready to move with you. And we wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Liberian resident coordinator, for those insightful comments. We want to quickly take two of our partners who are very engaged in our pending meetings in already late. That's the United States Ambassador Monrovia and the Chinese Ambassador both have a present schedule that they have to leave. So we now call on the Deputy Chief of Mission of the U.S. Ambassador for remarks. And we encourage all of the other speakers to come here after the please train down your time because we run late. Thank you, sir.
One more time, aloha and howdy. All protocols being observed. Again, my name is Joe Zadrazi. I'm the new Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy here in Monrovia. It's a distinct honor to join you for this event, particularly as it follows so soon after President Boracay's historic participation last week in the 6th Leader Africa talks hosted by President Trump at the White House. There, President Trump expressed the United States' commitment to strengthening our relationship in Africa through economic development efforts that benefit both the United States and its partners. As President Trump said, we have a unique opportunity to examine the current landscape of bilateral trade, investment, and economic cooperation between our two nations. President Boracay rightly pointed out to Liberia's rich resources and democratic stability. This conference underscores the many opportunities arising from the clear fact that Liberia is open for business. By leveraging these opportunities, we can create jobs, stimulate innovation, and enhance the quality of life for the people of Liberia. Moreover, discussions today will highlight the importance of creating and enabling an environment for business to thrive, supported by sound policies and strong institutions. And by working collaboratively, we can overcome the challenges, seize opportunities, and build a brighter future for both the United States and Liberia. I commend the organizers for this conference and wish you all success. Thank you very much.
The Ambassador of the People's Republic of China is next. So, Ambassador.
Thank you. Good morning. All protocol observed. It's a great honor to speak today at this important conference. First, I would extend warm congratulations on the inauguration of this conference. Liberia is a vibrant land brimming with marvelous opportunities. Under President Boracay's leadership, Liberia has ushered in a new era characterized by political and social stability, sustained economic growth, and continuous social advancement. The improving public security situation, abundant natural resources, youthful and dynamic demographic profile, ambitious industrial policies, and increasing open market in Liberia present tremendous potential and promising opportunities for investors worldwide. Please allow me to share two observations. First, investment requires openness and cooperation, mutual benefit and win-win outcomes. At this moment, we are witnessing a troubling global trend, the persistent rise of unilateralism and protectionism, the growing politicization of economic issues, and artificial fragmentation of world market. Particularly alarming is some countries' tariff offensive against the world. Such unilateral actions severely undermine the international economic and trade order, disproportionately impact Africa's economic development, and put African nations to resolve to attract investment and build open economies as a test. Open cooperation represents the right path forward, mutual benefit, and win-win outcomes reflect our shared aspiration. China remains committed to creating new opportunities for the world through the achievements of Chinese modernization and to providing fresh momentum for partners, including Liberia, through its vast market. On June 11th,
The ministerial meeting of coordinators on implementation of outcomes of the Beijing Summit of the Forum on China-African Cooperation, FOCA, convened in China. Honorable Minister Dacosel were there. At the conference, China pledged its willingness to expand the zero-tariff treatment for 100% tariff lines to all 53 African countries having diplomatic relations with China. For the list of developed countries in Africa, which already enjoy the zero-tariff treatment, China will roll out measures on market access, inspection and quarantine, and customs clearance to boost the trade in goods, enhance skills and technical training, and expand the promotion of quality products. China is willing to deepen the implementation of the 10 partnership actions with the African side, especially to strengthen cooperation in key areas such as green industry, e-commerce and e-payment, AI and technology, and to deepen cooperation in the fields of security, finance and the rule of law, so as to push forward the high-quality development of China-African cooperation. The implementation of these initiatives will undoubtedly add strong impetus to the international community's efforts to increase investment in Africa. Second, investment demands trustworthy partnership. At the 2024 Beijing Summit of the FOCA, President Xi Jinping and President Joseph Boakai elevated our bilateral relations to a strategic partnership. Under their strategic guidance, our bilateral mutual trust has deepened, yielding substantive outcomes across the board. China stands as one of Liberia's pivotal trade partners and key sources of foreign investment, with bilateral trade maintaining steady growth and multiple investment progressing steadily. According to China customs statistics, Liberia's exports to China increased by 27.3% in 2024. According to incomplete statistics, Chinese enterprises have invested more than $1 billion in Liberia, establishing China as a major investment source. With the implementation of zero-tariff policies and bilateral trade facilitation measures, more Liberia products will enter the Chinese market, creating favorable conditions for Liberia to attract investment, generate employment, upgrade manufacturing, and extend industrial value chains. The Chinese government encourages the Chinese enterprises to invest in Liberia. I'm confident that more and more Chinese investors will come and explore opportunities here. Ladies and gentlemen, looking ahead, the prospects for deepening China-Liberia investment cooperation remain vast, with significant potential for collaboration in industry and supply chain cooperation and integration. To further advance our bilateral investment partnership, may I propose the following? First, enhancing strategic synergy actively promotes the alignment between China's modernization drive and Liberia's arrest agenda, with the deepening implementation of the China-African Partnership for Common Development Framework Agreement. I am confident our two countries will identify more converging interests and deliver additional flagship cooperation projects. Second, streamline the business environment. We encourage the Liberia government to maintain an open, equitable, transparent, stable, and predictable business environment for all investors. China is ready to sign and implement bilateral investment promotion and facilitation agreement with Liberia. Third, pioneer emerging sectors. We are consolidating traditional cooperation. We should vigorously expand investment in green economy, such as renewable energy and environmental technologies. Also, in the area of digital transformation, including AI, e-commerce, smart cities, tech innovation, and smart agri-mining, to cultivate new growth engines. Fourth, strengthening institutional frameworks fully leverage existing bilateral economic mechanisms to facilitate real-time information exchange, address operational challenges, and provide targeted corporate guidance. Fifth, fostering people-to-people bonds. Investment that thrives on mutual understanding. We advocate enhanced exchange between business communities, think tanks, and media organizations to solidify public support for cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, my embassy will serve as a bridge and catalyst for our investment partnership. We are committed to maintain close cooperation with Liberia stakeholders. Wish the conference a great success, and may our strategic partnership yield new fruitful results. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And moving along, before we go any further, we'd like to take this time to recognize our Minister of Commerce, Minister Magdalene Jose. Welcome. And also, you know, this program would not have been possible without our sponsors. So we'd like to start by recognizing Orange, or should we say Orange? And they have done such a phenomenal job in standing firm with Nova on the planning of this event. So we'd like for you to also know that Orange is a partner, and we're very excited by all that they have done to make this possible. And also this event has been in collaboration with the Vice President of Liberia's office, as well as the National Investment Commission. So we'd like to make sure we also mention that. And we'll continue to list some of our sponsors as we continue. Now we'd like to call on His Excellency Lahomni Ramoni, Plenipotentiary Minister and Charge d'Affaires of the Kingdom of Morocco. Welcome.
Good afternoon, we're already 3 minutes past 12. Thank you, Hester, thank you very much. Honorable Vice President, Ambassador Anderson, thank you very much for being part of this commendable initiative. Honorable co-chairs and members of the cabinet, members of the diplomatic corps, thank you very much for all of you being here, business leaders as well. And I would also like to give a special welcome to my fellow citizens who come all the way from Morocco, dedicated business leaders from the Kingdom of Morocco. Ladies and gentlemen, for decades, Africa has been in the news. Conflicts, wars, pandemics, schools, and in other words, Africa was always associated, unfortunately, with violent extremism, ethnic sectarianism. Today, Africa is the news, and Liberia is in the news today with the president. So, the narrative in the news was, and the rhetoric on Africa and many regions in Africa had been a devastating disaster for Africans and for Africa in general. For years, the image of Africa and Africans communicated to the media on a global level had been even more devastating. It's high time, and it's an urgency. It's an urgent need to rewrite the narrative by Africans and media outlets, African media outlets have both the moral and professional responsibility in this action. I would like now to touch base with you on Moroccan-Liberia bilateral relations, which have known a significant improvement in different areas and sectors. On September 29th, Morocco and Liberia signed a roadmap. The two ministers of foreign affairs signed a roadmap on development and economic development, investment, economic diplomacy, and investment in particular was at the heart of this roadmap. The opening of the embassy, the reopening of the embassy of the Kingdom of Morocco in Monrovia on November the 1st, 2024. Immediately after, we had the Joint Cooperation Commission, which took place in Lyon in Morocco, where we had a big delegation headed by Her Excellency the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Liberia and other ministers. We have signed, Morocco and Liberia signed 15 agreements, to be specific, 13 agreements and 2 memorandum of understanding. Immediately after that, on February, we started the implementation of the agreement. So we developed a program, a 3-phase program on economic diplomacy. So we already, on February, last week of February, we had a big delegation of business institutions from the food institution here, who had a very productive interaction. We'll be having the second one on October, and the third one where we have private sector from different areas actually articulated in the agenda, in the address agenda of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Liberia. I heard a lot of very, very interesting comments from previous speakers, but I heard very little about training, or education in general, training and capacity building. Morocco is engaged because we believe with Liberia, engaged with Liberia in this particularly important sector, which we believe is important because human development should be at the heart of any business activity. So as I said, the implementation started. We already had at least 5 or 6 implementation actions, but particularly on capacity building and training. Liberia has rich in resources. Liberia has a good framework of investment, but Liberia needs, of course, to train people in areas of what I would say where they have a comparative advantage. And Morocco is ready to continue this and, of course, develop these trainees, because what we're looking at into developing a strong middle class in Liberia. And we cannot do this if we don't train people, we don't concentrate in capacity building on skills learning, especially in the areas like energy, agriculture, agribusiness or agribusiness, technology, mining also. We were happy to participate in this big enterprise, and talking about the training and education in general, we think in Morocco that connecting educational institutions with the business community is an emergency. Harnessing educational programs and curricula with the job market is also an emergency. So there should be no such thing as economic diplomacy fatigue and training and capacity building fatigue. There is a need to develop synergies, as I said, between the education institutions, business enterprises, and the needs in the job market. Let me just now move to an initiative developed initiated by His Majesty the King in November 6, 2003, which is the Atlantic Initiative. It is a contribution of Morocco to address one of the most pressing issues, which is connectivity easing, transport, especially maritime transport. So, in an increasingly fractured world, where rivalries between power structures, economic and diplomatic relations, so Africa is becoming a central space for global geostrategic reshaping. So building a geo-economic alternatives is a present imperative. So we have a video to air. Can we air the video now? It's only 3 minutes.
On November 6, 2023, Morocco launched the Atlantic Initiative, a strategic effort aimed at providing Sahelian countries with access to the Atlantic Ocean. By leveraging Morocco's advanced road, ports, and rail infrastructure, this initiative not only opens new trade routes, but also facilitates implementing large-scale development projects designed to boost the region's economic growth and connectivity. Prior to that, Morocco initiated the African Atlantic States process in 2022, uniting 21 Atlantic-facing African nations around 3 priorities. First, security and political dialogue. Second, blue economy, maritime connectivity and energy. And third, marine conservation. The Atlantic Initiative bolsters Africa's connection to global powers, as well as strengthens southern Pan-Atlanticism. Africa's 23 coastal nations represent 57% of the continent's trade, 55% of its GDP, and are home to 46% of its population. Expanding access to the wider Atlantic will further elevate the continent's economic and strategic importance globally. The strategy to unlock the Atlantic potential relies on 3 key pillars. First, shared priorities. Second, project integration by integrating ongoing projects such as the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline and the Great Green Wall. Third, stakeholder participation by engaging key stakeholders such as the Maritime Organization of West and Central Africa, African Port Management Associations, and the International Maritime Organization. A key component of this initiative is the Dakhla Atlantic Port Project, a $1.2 billion deep water facility designed to handle large cargo volumes and serve as a vital gateway for Sahelian countries to access global markets. The African Atlantic gas pipeline
distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased and honored to announce the arrival of Honorable Jeremiah Panakum, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. Today's conference, Liberia Investment Conference 2025. Mr. Vice President, you are welcome. Thank you. Let's continue with what we were viewing. According to him, we have less than 3 minutes for the conclusion. Please, continue.
2023, Morocco launched the Atlantic Initiative, a strategic effort aimed at providing Sahelian countries with access to the Atlantic Ocean. By leveraging Morocco's advanced road, ports, and rail infrastructure, this initiative not only opens new trade routes, but also facilitates implementing large-scale development projects designed to boost the region's economic growth and connectivity. Prior to that, Morocco initiated the African Atlantic States process in 2022, uniting 21 Atlantic-facing African nations around three priorities. First, security and political dialogue. Second, blue economy, maritime connectivity and energy. And third, marine conservation. The Atlantic Initiative bolsters Africa's connection to global powers, as well as strengthens southern Pan-Atlanticism. Africa's 23 coastal nations represent 57% of the continent's trade, 55% of its GDP, and are home to 46% of its population. Expanding access to the wider Atlantic will further elevate the continent's economic and strategic importance globally. The strategy to unlock the Atlantic potential relies on three key pillars. First, shared priorities. Second, project integration by integrating ongoing projects such as the Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline and the Great Green Wall. Third, stakeholder participation by engaging key stakeholders such as the Maritime Organization of West and Central Africa, African Port Management Associations, and the International Maritime Organization. A key component of this initiative is the Dakhla Atlantic Port Project, a $1.2 billion deep water facility designed to handle large cargo volumes and serve as a vital gateway for Sahelian countries to access global markets. The African Atlantic Gas Pipeline is another cornerstone of Morocco's regional vision. This $25 billion energy project aims to link Nigeria to Morocco through an extensive pipeline network traversing multiple West African countries: Nigeria, Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Guinea, Liberia, Benin, and Cote d'Ivoire. These countries have all signed agreements with Morocco to launch the project. The project aims to create economic corridors by enhancing the quality of land and maritime infrastructure in the Sahel. Also, it directly addresses the infrastructure issue, which is evident in the region, where high trade costs have long hindered accessibility to international markets. On December 23, 2023, the ministerial coordination meeting took place in Marrakesh, with foreign ministers of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Chad expressing support for the international initiative. On the sidelines of the 79th United Nations General Assembly, Morocco and several Sahel countries highlighted the progress made under His Majesty King Mohammed VI to facilitate access to the Atlantic Ocean for the Sahel states. These diplomatic meetings reaffirmed their commitment to the initiative. As the Atlantic Initiative opens new avenues for cooperation, it also occurs within a complex regional landscape. 5 military coups succeeded in 5 different countries: in Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Niger, and Gabon, while 3 other nations, Tunisia, Chad, and Sudan, had constitutional coups. Sanctions were imposed to apply pressure on those who seized power by force or defied the constitution, in the hopes of restoring democratic systems. However, these sanctions have significant impacts on the livelihoods of populations. These coups have led to fragmentation within regional organizations, like the Economic Community of West African States. Countries such as Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have withdrawn from ECOWAS, while the formation of the Alliance of Sahel States in early 2024 by the same nations signals a realignment of political forces within the region. Within this context, Morocco's strategic infrastructure initiatives present a transformative model offering a holistic approach to regional integration. The Atlantic Initiative, with its focus on maritime and energy projects, provides a foundation for strengthening both economic and political ties across Africa and beyond. So how will the Atlantic Initiative benefit Sahelian landlocked countries? Mali's economy relies heavily on gold, cotton, and livestock exports. The benefits lie in reducing transport costs, enhance port access for the initiative's economic framework, could strengthen the competitiveness of Mali's mining and agricultural sectors. Niger's uranium and crude oil sectors stand to gain significantly from improved export routes and reduced transport costs, overcoming the current limitations on port access, compounded by the country's withdrawal from ECOWAS. Burkina Faso's gold and cotton sectors would benefit from streamlined access to global markets through the maritime and transport networks envisioned in the Atlantic Initiative. Improved connectivity to global markets would reduce Chad's dependence on limited regional trade routes, while enhanced energy access taxes could stimulate the growth of local processing industries. While challenges remain, Morocco's Atlantic Initiative represents a forward-looking solution to unlock Africa's potential, promoting long-term prosperity and regional cooperation in the face of current instability.
Thank you. That was from the Kingdom of Morocco. So we'd like to continue, and we'd like to call up Ambassador from the Embassy of South Africa, His Excellency Professor Dr. Iqbal Jaspi. Thank you. And it's also because of the time, we are a little bit behind on our time. We do ask that you are conscious of the time and keep your remarks brief. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Vice President Jeremiah, our distinguished ladies and gentlemen, including my colleagues from the diplomatic corps, in the interest of time, I'm sure we're all looking forward to listening to His Excellency. I'm going to concentrate on two key points. One is the idea of investment as a key component in any country's development and economy. And the second is the role of women in the development of countries. So let me start with the role our mothers have played. So when I saw the program today, I was happy to see that this program is also applying the gender parity rule in the African Union. I'm always proud to say the only international multilateral body in the world which applies the gender parity rule of 50% women and 50% men is the African Union. So today you can see the gender parity rule. You can also see it next to the Vice President, His Excellency, the UN Economic Commissioner, seated beside him. And you can see it in the organizing of this investment conference. Whether it's Liberia, whether it is South Africa, who are the majority of roses? They are women. If you look at the statistics in Liberia, you look at the statistics in South Africa, it is women who will queue up and vote. And we all know in Liberia, if you go and look at the Liberia Marketing Association, the women in the markets, it's women. So it's very pleasing to see that when the new government came to power, they moved in that direction of getting women to play a critical role in the tactic, in society, in terms of political, economic advisors to the president himself. And I also see that in the vice president's office, his gender advisor has been traveling rigorously on this project of getting women more involved. And of course, here there's a bit of propaganda. She made a visit recently to Cape Town. So for us as the government of South Africa, this is an important issue. And I know that His Excellency, the Vice President, was recently at the Gender Caucus at the legislature of Liberia to deal with the same issue. And I'm pleased to report that the IBSA Fund, India, Brazil, South Africa Fund, has decided to support the Gender Caucus at the legislature by $1 million. The idea to have it in paper, we all know, is the easy part in life. But the idea of implementing is that long journey where we all have to go together. So, in this broader context of the issue of investment, I recall when President Bokai last year opened this conference, he mentioned he's been to many investment conferences all over the world, but it's the first time he's attending an investment conference in Liberia. So I'm happy this year there's better participation in this conference for investment. And on the side of the South African government, when there was a bid now to expand and maintain the railway line from Yakepa to Buchanan, we encouraged South Africa's largest construction company to get involved. So they are now involved in the extension of that railway line. And they are also involved in the maintenance of that railway line. And we are encouraging them to get into the third phase of the largest investment, once again in Liberia. This last phase was the $800 million investment. So the next phase is going to be the development of the 50 megawatt electricity station in that area of Nimba to give further support to the iron ore enlarged concentrator in Nimba at the AML. But I'm also glad that many of the other South African engineers are getting involved in the different sectors in Liberia. Because, as was said earlier on, when anybody is not free, then no one is free. We know in the build-up to the peace accord of Accra here in 2003, our president, our ex-president, President Mbeki, was asked to get involved. And I often ask that South Africa is so far away. How do we explain the presence of South Africa here? We know today most Africans migrate within Africa. It's not correct, or it's not true. They migrate to Europe primarily. They migrate to Africa. Whether you're looking at the Zimbabweans in South Africa, or you're looking at West Africans in South Africa, they prefer to be in Africa. Who wants to go in cold countries and spend a lot of time there and end up with menial jobs? So that is the fact. And we believe as South Africa, if Liberia is not free and peaceful and developed, neither will South Africa be free, neither will South Africa be developed, because we would have to, and correctly so, host migrants from different parts of the world, which we don't mind being, because we know the role Liberia played in our own freedom. I think many people don't know that in 1962, Liberia and Ethiopia took apartheid South Africa to the International Court of Justice. It was a vanguard move, which then ended up with the build-up of opposition to the apartheid government of South Africa. A lot of people also don't know that Mandela spent time in Liberia in 1961. And so did many of our top musicians, Miriam Makeba, Yuma Sakira, the Soweto exiled student leader, spent time here, and he liked Liberia so much. I think you know the rest of the story. He married Miss Liberia, and he has 2 children from her as well. So Demoko Mashishini is well known as a Soweto student leader who created those rights and provided leadership there in Soweto in 1976. So the vanguard role Liberia played in the 50s, 60s, 70s ended up being the Cape Town of West Africa in terms of leadership, in terms of the fact that many had come and spent time there, including the well-known coach in soccer, Setor. He came to Liberia and prepared George Weah to join AC Milan in soccer. And those factors, you can see they are coming back onto the scene now. When I looked on Friday at Google statistics, some 42 million people Google, where is this Liberia, where, you know, that famous phrase was made. And the other aspect which you can see that while South Africa may be on the tip of Southern Africa, but music is a strong bond. You go often to restaurants here, to musical clubs, they would play our piano. And then also South Africans now know MC Kara, Panto, and all the famous music. You know. Of course, I'm not saying I like that song like Charger. but it shows that the continent is interconnected and that whatever happens here has an impact in South Africa and vice versa. South Africa is the third biggest contributor to the Africa Development Fund, the Africa Development Bank Fund. We believe we must contribute more to the Africa Development Bank and to ensure that the development of the continent continues. And in that regard, we are glad that the Africa Development Bank has its presence here, and we are very glad also the bank's office is right across our embassy there. So we often encourage them to get involved in the arrest agenda, particularly roads, and energy as well. So with those 2 points, I just want to highlight that we want to congratulate Liberia for ratifying this morning, it happened yesterday, sorry, but it's in the news this morning, the African Union Convention for Ending Violence Against Women and Children. Thank you.
That was the South African ambassador to Liberia. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. As a Vice President, I'd like to welcome you. We're pleased that you are here. This summit has been embraced very strongly by the diplomatic community. The Americans were here earlier, but they had some time constraints, so they spoke. And they left. The Chinese and the rest are still here. We would like to thank them for their questions. I know that some of the ambassadors have spoken, but the most appropriate thing to do is for the one who is the lawyer of the diplomatic corps in the country to also make remarks. So I'd like to invite Dane Yala Constingana. He's a Cameroonian ambassador, but he's also the lawyer of the diplomatic corps in Liberia for remarks. Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, for giving me the floor. I'm happy that at the time I speak, His Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic, Jeremiah Queen, has arrived, so it elevates the whole occasion. members of the legislature, and I can see the senator across, members of cabinet and government, and our dignified guests from across the Atlantic, and Madam the ECA representative, Madam Laisingone, the other Laisingone, because we have Ngone in Cameroon spelled the same way, so permit me if I massacre your name. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues also of the diplomatic corps, we are pleased and honored to be invited by the organizers of this 2025 Liberia Investment Conference. Congrats to the NIC and to the NOVA, who are the chief organizers, as well as the chairman, the chair lady, co-chair from the presidency of the Republic, who are behind this and who are behind our presidency. This second investment conference testifies to something capital in the socio-economic life of Liberia, the determination to break the nation free of the gravitational pull that appears to hold back the country from attaining the horizons which its abundant natural resources and the resilience of its youth do steadily beckon it. We are talking about investment, and we must, for Liberia especially, and other countries, and I must say that when I take the floor sometimes, being a member and ambassador of a country like Cameroon, which has the same issues, I am embarrassed not to be able to preach my own chapel, as they say, and only to speak with the neutrality that is required to of the diplomatic corps, because I must be fair to Asia and Africa, to South America and America, US and to Europe, and it's sometimes a very difficult task when I know that I have things to say as a Cameroon ambassador, as an African ambassador. So I would say that the investment climate must pay attention to the looming challenges that are on us at the present moment, and this involves the technological evolution towards AI and other cyber technologies, as well as the new financial climate which is being created by the regression in ODA, or official development assistance, and the preference which seems to be given to trade. And trade means personal interest, and personal interest means confrontational economics. I am very happy to see that we are talking also of partnership, and I'm happy to see the diversification of stakeholders, partners as some call them, is very crucial. I am also happy to note that the arrest, the AAID, the Agenda for Inclusive Development, has defined the priority areas and objectives for the country. And if we come as foreign investors, it is best to be fair and to align ourselves to the priorities of the country. Because each partner must not come into the country and impose its own preferences. And it would be like a jeep with conflicting parts. It will be an engine, it will be a vehicle, but it will be difficult to maintain. I must also say that we are very proud of the incentives given by Liberia for business. And make the remark that incentives must not only be fiscal incentives. There are areas of labor flexibility and competence, labor capacity, which we must pay attention to. We often say that Liberia is ready to do business. We must be very attentive to what that means, ready to do business. So we're talking about human capacity, moral attractiveness. And in this regard, we are talking about things like corruption, which are spoilers for this readiness to do business. But sometimes I feel that right from our schools and homes and churches, we must teach our children about corruption and respect for public properties and public interests, so that this is an attraction for the investors that we invite. We can see that there are problems across our countries. Cameroon is no exception. About loan refunds. Sometimes people borrow money from banks and the banks are ready to sell money. Let me put it in those crude terms. That's what banks are. They sell money. And they are ready to sell money so long as you refund their money. And so sometimes there are failures in this regard, and the legal support systems do not support these issues of the bank, the lender. So we must be ready to devote also as much time and energy in working for the business companies for which we work. The same as when we go across to America and Europe, we are ready to work double hard. It is known that the African who arrives there is working very, very hard. He's hungry to develop his families. But when we are back in Africa, we don't want to put in that same effort. So these are areas which I think we should pay attention to. And sometimes the banks and the savings have not come deep into our countries. And here I would say, for instance, the work done by African Bank, which is a Cameroon-linked bank with partnerships in Liberia, is a great indication of how we must go. We must incite the back country to get into the financial systems. And that is why the banks like that, which go to the countryside and try to mobilize our native people who can say $5 or $2 or $20, are important to get us into the stream of financial flows in the countries. So there are small things like bank hours. In my country, the bank closes maybe at 4 or 4:30. In Liberia, the bank closes at 2 o'clock. The market woman is not going to find a place by the time she finishes selling to save her money for the day. And this is exposure to theft, and this is a lot of money that we are losing in the business sector. So I always say small things matter. The shopping hours. When I was privileged long ago to get an easy visa to the United States, I would find in New York that the shops are open 10 o'clock and 12 sometimes, and everybody's shouting, everything must go. And you see the businessman is selling. In Liberia and maybe some other countries, we have now closed the shops maybe by 5 o'clock. And so there's a lot of money that's passing under our noses, and we don't pay attention to that. There are small business lessons that must then be learned from home and school. Nobody climbs the ladder from the top. You have to start from the bottom rungs. So I always say small things matter, small things matter. We must see dollars chasing dollars, not verbs chasing dollars, or not verbs chasing other verbs. When we speak intellectually, the businessman takes down his MBA and so on, and he goes to the floor and he does business. So at a time when the dominant narrative is that states must not do business, but must only provide incentives and infrastructure for the private sector, I believe we must also ask ourselves, which private sector? A solid, collaborative, and well-schooled local private sector does provide reassuring attraction, a solid guarantee, and trustworthy insurance to the foreign private sector. The foreign investor in an economy must be one that aims to provide not only statistical growth data measured in macroeconomic jargons, but growth plus targeted the foreign investor must not be a targeted man or woman lost to the unhealthy winds and whispers around his business. A stranger always looking in fear over his shoulder. And good business has very little to do with good or bad foreign nationality. It is more to do with fair trading, fair transformation, fair added value. It is about all that, but also with genuinely paying full and realistic attention to the ecology and to the sustainability of humanity. We are very lucky to be in the times of President Boakai, who is fighting very hard to get the country off its feet. And I must say, there is a beauty to work. There is a beauty in working in the virginity of Africa. There is a beauty in fighting challenges, in building up and breaking historical inertia. I thank my brother who made me feel very inspired, because I say, without inspiration from the heart, without inspiration and pride in yourself and in your nation, there is no need to compete in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. You know, it's great to hear from our diplomatic corps, because they are critical partners in Liberia's development in all areas, especially trade, tourism, and those industries. So we do thank you very much. And now we'll shift gear a little bit and move into hearing from the House of Representatives. We'd like to call on Honorable Fode Fambule. He is the chairman on Investment and Concession Committee. Welcome.
Thank you again. His Excellency and Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Jeremiah Cole, Mr. Anderson, our Senator, and distinguished guests. A lot has been said. As Liberians, we have come to tell our story. A story of a country a few years back was considered as a failed state. A story of a country that in the last 20 years we have strived that today we can be counted among the members of the Security Council and elected president. We have come as a country that is no longer discussing war, but as a country that is now discussing how we all can partner to invest in a country that will bring dividend to your investment. That's the kind of country we are here discussing. As member of the legislature, we want to assure you that the legislature is willing to put in place every mechanism and policy that help drive our investment sector. And that to our investors, our country is not complete yet. We are developing, but we are willing to work together. We are willing to strive together. We are willing to build a foundation that tells a better story for the future. And that's the kind of country we are inviting you to come and work with. The legislature is doing everything to reform our laws to ensure that it fits the current reality and promote growth in our economy. Thank you again, and a very big thank you to Mr. Nova and his team. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Fambule. When I saw the representative coming to the podium, the whole folder in his hand, I was like, we're still struggling with time management. But thank you very much, sir. You did very well. But we heard from the House of Representatives, and it is a must that we hear from the House of Senate. And the only person who's here to do so on behalf of the Senate is the Honorable Eminent Batikwa, Grand Crew County Senator.
Your Excellency Jeremiah Maku, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, my colleague, Chair of Investment Section of the Honorable House of Representatives, members of the Cabinet here, distinguished members of the platform, our diplomatic corps, the UN assistant, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I bring you greetings from the Honorable President Pro Tempore of the
Liberia Senate, Honorable Nyobli Kanga Lawrence, who was invited in this occasion. Unfortunately, because of her engagements, she's not here. Fortunately for me, my remarks will be brief because though she's not here, the President of the Liberia Senate is here. Indeed, the Liberia Senate is in full support of this initiative. We want to thank the organizers of this. These are some of the strategies that we will do to enhance our investment activities in the country. Yes, the Liberia Senate is fully prepared to continue to reform our laws that will encourage investors to come into our country. If you may not know, currently we have laws that are very recent that provide incentivize investors. We have the investment incentive code. People who are below 10 million are given short-term incentive according to our laws. People who are above 10 million are given long-term incentive. So our laws are friendly. You are in fact protected when you are investing in Liberia. You know already our country is stable. 4 different democratic elections have been held uninterrupted in our country. That is what we also want to thank the government of Liberia, the president and vice president. Some of the factors that were hindering investment activities in the country were the lack of the appropriate infrastructure in our country. Mr. Vice President, we want to thank the government for its commitment to develop the road network. Because when people want to go to Southeast, they say, oh no, bro. Today, you are steadily putting the road there so investors will have no excuse to go to Southeast. The issue of electricity that was confined in Monrovia is now going all over the country. So investors will have the opportunity to utilize electricity in the other part of the country. We want to thank you. Liberia Senate is prepared to ensure that the appropriate laws that will protect investors and investment in the country are provided. Thank you very much. We stand ready to work with you cooperatively. Thank you very much.
Honorable Amendment in particular. Thank you, sir. I'm told one of the very important sectors that we're seeking to find investment in is the agricultural sector. And I'm told the Honorable Minister is in the hall. Minister Luther, are you here? Yeah. Please come forward, sir, on the podium. Yes, sir.
And before moving on, we'd like to take a moment just to say thank you to some more of our sponsors. Africa Global Logistics, AGL, B Mountain, Liberia Agricultural Corporation, LEC, LAC, Liberia Food Processing, Inc., UNDP, Aqua Life, the Liberian Registry, Insurance Company of Africa, Cape Hotel, ABK. We want to say thank you to all of you because this event would not have been possible without their support. We now will continue, and we come to what is the crux of the matter. So at this moment, we'd like to now call on our special honored guest speaker for the day. She is the Director of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNICA, and she is at the sub-regional office that is based in Niamey, Niger. She covers 15 countries, 15 West African countries. She is an economist and political policy development expert. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Goni Diop to the podium. And I think I got the name right, not Ngoni, but Goni Diop.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator and Mr. Moderator, the Minister of Communication, His Excellency Joe Kong, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. Thank you very much. Honorable Augustine Kepe Gaffney, Minister of Finance and Development Planning of Liberia. Honorable Madeleine Ellen Gabush, my dear sister, Minister of Commerce and Industry. Honorable Jeff Bibo, Chairman of the National Investment Commission. Ambassador David Anderson, CEO of Nova Africa Venture. Very, very proactive leader. Wrote it in Liberia, focused in Africa. I think that's the best way to describe the raison d'etre of Nova. Well done. Distinguished government officials, members of the diplomatic corps, and I acknowledge our dear business coordinator, I acknowledge my dear colleague, Dr. Mario, who is placed at the Ministry of Finance to support economic planning and other development. Thank you. Distinguished investors from across Liberia, Africa, and worldwide, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Senegalese, but you will hear me talking about my country, because I cover 15 West African countries, and de facto, I take the nationality of each of all of them, including the Good afternoon, warm greetings to each and all of you. It is a distinct honor and privilege to meet you today, representing the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. I extend a warm greeting from His Excellency Mr. Claver Gekeke, United Nations Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary of the ECA. I wish to commend the government of Liberia, His Excellency Mr. Vice President, and Nova Africa, for organizing this timely and strategic conference, the 2025 Investment Conference, which is organized in a complex geostrategic and geopolitical shift with far-reaching impact on developing countries like Liberia. But it is also a context of opportunities, of receptive development paradigm, and narrative, all things being equals the time of renewal. Excellency, we gather at a very defined moment for Liberia. In January this year, President Boke launched the RS Agenda for Inclusive Development. It has been raised several times. Liberia National Development Plan 2025-2029, which is the bold blueprint, ambitious plan anchored in Vision 2020, with a clear objective to transition in Liberia from a low income to a middle income countries by 2020, not far away. So an inclusive, sustainable and resilient development, leaving no Liberians behind. We have highlighted several times some of the key priorities. And I would like to articulate them once more from the political economic point of view, macroeconomic point of view, but also sustainable development point of view, around economic transformation, infrastructure development, rule of laws, governance and anti-corruption, environmental sustainability, human capital development. an holistic package to set the pathway for a transformative development for Liberia. It is possible. And those strands are mutually reinforcing. We do know that, for instance, economic transformation will expand the fiscal space needed to invest in infrastructure, health and education, sectors that are critical for job creation and human capital development. The estimated financing requirement to implement the AID is approximately $8.3 billion over 5 years, representing nearly 148 of the national GDP is or not, but not really. Current estimate is $5.6 billion. Clearly, this ambitious plan will require strategic partnership and capital investment. In April 2025, I had the privilege of participating in Liberia's first ever development partners retreat, alongside with the UN resident coordinator, Christian Humans, my sister who let us call the UN. And the retreat demonstrated an unwavering commitment in a whole of government, a whole of a system approach, bringing together all partners for cooperation, giving us strategic direction for the latter in a very strategic way, in a transformative way, in a concrete way, based on a foresight analysis. Solution we talked about. Impactful solution for Liberia's structural transformation. We are this. Not ex nihilo, but bringing to the fore some of the journey, the trajectory of Liberia. And I'm going to talk about it. We have been talking about challenges. No, they are not only challenges. And Liberia cannot be defined by challenges only. Liberia is defined by other things, and we can't that way. It was evident that under President Bokai leadership, the foundation is being laid for a bold chapter, what we may call Liberia 2.0, a national transformation anchor on ownership, inclusion, resilience, transformation change. No country has achieved development, sustainable development, by relying solely on the destruction of export of raw resources without value addition. Liberia understands that very well. While aid can contribute, it has never been the primary driver of development. We know that. Yet, no country has succeeded in achieving economic diversification, a cornerstone of development, through public finance alone. It's well documented. Ample evidence suggests that government creates an enough environment, but it is the private sector that drives innovation, productivity, and wealth creation. Wealth to create, but also in retail, meaning localization, adding value, add value addition. There are no miracles, let's face it, but ample possibilities and opportunities. That's what we want to hear. Well, and we know with Nelson Mandela, that if it seems impossible until it is done, it will be done here in Liberia. And in so doing, I would like to provide a very quick snapshot of Liberia's current economic and social landscape. I'm going to try not to speak a lot about the data and macroeconomy. As an economist, I can't help, but it's important to set the scene and sit in the context. We then deep dive into Liberia's extraordinary investment potential and follow by an analysis of key sectors identified as window opportunities to moving from that to solution, investment, to change, and of course, transformation. And there is something which is important, the paradigm shift. The new business model, and I'm talking by bringing a kind of proof of concept. We did this somewhere else. Liberia in the right direction to move toward that. Without further ado, very quickly, Excellency, allow me to say something. We all know that Liberia, for decades, Liberia narrative was dominated by civil war, fragility, and so on. I don't want to talk about those things. I prefer to say there are challenges, but indeed, let's focus on opportunities. But following the end of the largely delivered, we know, by high global commodity price, which give an insight into what should be done. Maybe as things. They are gross, but the content of the gross, the macroeconomic setting that actually support the growth need to be revisited. We learn from experience, and that's what we're doing. Of course, we know the COVID-19, we know that the growth declined, we know that we lost something in terms of prospect, economic prospect, and a kind of hard-won gain. That's normal. That's part of the process and transformation and change. But those fluctuations, because we know also when we have commodity prices that are US and fluctuating, it does affect our countries, Liberia, but other countries. That's part of the game. But we also have to, from the macroeconomic point of view, to set the seed and deep dive and understanding what are the indicators we must address to avoid such process of negative and hard-won reversal of gain. Deep economic fragility underscores the need for structural reform and diversification. Today we know, and we have to address it, nearly 50% of the population of our countries are below the national poverty line, and youth in employment remain alarmingly high at over 50% if you look at all the kind of figures we have. Most of them I got from the Ministry of Finance. Yet Liberia potential is immense, and I would like us to focus on that. Because we know that last year we have 4.5% of economic growth. Again, if you disconstruct the whole element and dimension of economic growth, we have questions, but it gives us insight into where we have to focus, what kind of priority we have to do, what kind of ecosystem we have to invest in. This year, we're saying that Liberia may have 5.5 or 5.6% of economic growth. We would like to go beyond the GDP because Liberia has natural capital, that's the capital that we all need to invest in the future. That capital represents more than the 4.5, it's beyond GDP. And that's what we like about Liberia to position itself in. I'm not going to the inflation, 7%, and it's going to be tackled. I mean, overall, we see a kind of steady, positive indicators. But again, the heart of the matter are the root causes, which all African countries, not only Liberia, but all my countries, including Liberia, should address. The whole dairy thing, when you have plenty and immense potential, is an issue we are addressing. The whole issue of saying your GDP is low and then you have some risk and so on has to be resolved and so on and so forth. The whole issue of the financial architecture, the international financial architecture, which ECA is pushing and is having its fight, is also to be addressed. Overall, we need to challenge the status quo and we need to bring some variables they take into account. Liberia, immense versus endowment. Africa, immense versus endowment. The natural capital is key to all countries here in the worldwide to develop. So it is the capital in its own right. So let's go beyond GDP and interrogate those resources, pulling them together, make them a key dimension of growth, economic growth, but retaining the economic growth, translating into a well-being for all the population. It's possible that we do it. Liberia is a land of business opportunities. Let me just flag, and I think you can bring just few, the second one. Iron, over 1 billion metric tons in reserve. That's you. Gold and active waste, of course we know it. We know that Liberia has timber, 44 forests over among the largest in West Africa. Carbon credit could be one of Liberia's key resources. Carbon credit right now is when we say, when we have resource endowment, you are polluting, we need you to trade. The trading is happening. Our role as an institution, and ECA is working on it, is to say, well, wait a minute. By doing so, you are not taking the premium from our forest and what you are benefiting because it's a universal good. You're not paying the right price. The challenge we are having is that we're not putting together as African and discuss the right price for carbon credit, but it has started. Slowly it has to expand, and that is a very big opportunity for Liberia harnessing its natural capital. We're not talking about challenges only, we're talking about land of opportunities. Offshore oil, potential 70 blocks identified, 4 currently licensed. Next, not forget the agro-industry sector, a huge one. However, those resources are exported largely in raw right now. Efforts have been made, but an over-reliance of raw would actually export our country, Liberia, and of course the shop. And of course, a bold diversification strategy has been moving on. But what is important to bear in mind is the new development narrative. From fragility to transformative development. And I would like for those who have been doing research to recall something. It is important to shift the dominant narrative. Liberia's story is not only one of war and fragility. Let's revisit the historiography of development. Let's revisit the political economy and deep dive into what we have in the old research, the statistics and so on. And here I recall the UN Statistical Journal of 1962. It's a bulletin of statistics. Listen to what he said. From the 1930 to 1970, Liberia achieved exceptional growth. By 1974, Liberia's real economic capital exceeded that of China by 80%. Indonesia and India, what has happened? Let's revisit. Let's try to understand. And that will give us insight into what we have to do. Otherwise, we will be focusing on the symptom without addressing some of the key fundamentals of Liberia and Liberia witnessed across the world. How come? When I was into South Korea, they told me Ghana 1960, South Korea 1960, and they were showing me what happened. So what happened is, we have to deep dive into what we actually did so far, what kind of policy and what kind of products were we exporting. Sometimes we see some of the countries, Korea, Qatar, you name them, and even Saudi Arabia and so on, they will start with exporting their natural capital. I will say natural capital because for me it's capital. To try to mobilize resources and steadily invest in others without the what we call the Dutch disease. Dutch disease meaning when you have lots of resources in a mineral and natural resources, we tend to avoid the first and foremost key sector, i.e. agriculture, which actually here in my country, Liberia, occupies 70% of the population. We tend to move away a little bit steadily because our macroeconomic system is telling you, you're doing well, you have 6%, you have 10% growth. But we forget to deep dive and say, wait a minute, what are the content of the growth? And if we are not careful, steadily we forget about agriculture. What other countries have done well is no, they did the right balance. And the paradox of the plenty didn't happen because they made sure that agriculture, that really mobilized 70% or 70% of the population, actually is supported. Investment money that is coming from the road, etc. They did it around 10 years, 20 years, let's say 2 decades, 3 decades. Maybe there's something that we miss. We didn't do that. That is why somehow, somewhere, we miss the growth. And if you look at the graph, I just want to avoid a lot of equation and so on, you can see somewhere where it's going down because there's something fundamental with the agriculture, with the services and digital, which we didn't do at the same level as mineral and natural resources. And at the same time, in the development paradigm, in the development process, when you arrive to the tipping point, then you miss completely the fundament and the foundation for the agriculture. Yet the agriculture, it is well exploited, welfare, investment. The 70% who live with agriculture, by the agriculture, they get what we take the right mix of education, and agriculture will give kind of 20%, 25%, according to some country, based on some context, to the services, to the industry. So you will have a whole process of transformational change. We start with the key one, and you will see a middle class, you will see educated people who are ready to move to the second, to the industry, manufacture, and so on and so forth. So this kind of equation will give you insight into macroeconomically, what should we do, what can we do, what shouldn't we be doing, and so on. And one thing which is all important here in Liberia is that it has to demonstrate its capacity to lay the foundation and to revisit the past with lessons, with very ample policies. All the normative work you made, like the egg, have been actually put in here. And we found that also, that democratic process should be translated right now into democratic dividend. Hear me well, I'm not saying demographic dividend. That one we know. In 2022, we worked and deep dive into the satellite account to try to understand what actually will help Liberia to move the pathway for change. We found the demographic window is far away because the deficit, the life cycle deficit was 76%, which means you have many people, very little, that actually trying to take care of very wide population. If you continue that way, it can take you 35.2 years to start enjoying the democratic dividend. Democratic dividend and democratic dividend goes along. And they are supported by the normative framework, that foresight analysis that Liberia has done. So what does it mean for the government? That's why the government say, we understand that. We know the process we are in, we know the pathway, we know the trajectory. But we want to change that trajectory, and we want to change that pathway. Can you come back again, please? And it's where Liberia has defined a roadmap to diversify its economy. Can you come first, please? And the first one is to say, can you come? Simply put, Liberia needs business. Simply put, Liberia is open to business. Attention, has said in French before, francophone. The government's strategic intent is business that are underpinned by shared responsibility, stewardship, shared prosperity, and mutual accountability. This is why if you look at all the analysis and put them together, it's a win-win approach. There is a theory of change, and the theory of change is to say, if we change the dynamic and change the pathway we are in, we have it absolutely right now to find what it takes and build on our comparative advantage. Comparative advantage can be actually illustrated this way. If you look at up there, Liberia of course has, you can go back to the opportunities, the coastal. Liberia has, let me say, iron, we have the diamond, I have given the numbers. But then Liberia has other things with the diaspora. Do we know that the diaspora in Liberia, if you count all the origin, etc., is around 1.2 to 1.7 million? And analysis, a very in-depth analysis, found that just the diaspora can bring up to 800 million. So how do we make sure that what we need for the corporate thing to actually fund Liberia transformation change, building the first one, building on its resource endowment, can actually use the crowding, the blending finance based on what we have without over-relying on debt and debt distress. That becomes the big one. If you continue the dynamic, you will see you will have all this financing, etc. for the diaspora, as we say, the public-private partnership in the corporation manner. And right now we know there's a public-private partnership going on with Liberia and institutions like Nova, bringing investors not only from Africa, but from elsewhere. But we are saying for us to happen, we have to connect the dot in a systemic manner and making sure that any investment that comes is aligned with the priorities set out in the AAD and driving socio-economic development. Next, and you can go quickly. You can go quickly, please. You continue, please. Okay, based on the paradigm shift, again and again, if you look at where Liberia is going, the paradigm shift is underpinned by shifting from exporting new natural resources to focusing on value addition. As I said, what was missing, they learned from what happened before. The foresight analysis gives them the perspective for change, and this is actually the leitmotif value addition. align with the development goal. And another thing which is extremely important here is the kind of connection, the nexus between the economic diversification, industrial growth, and building resilient and self-sufficient industry for long-term prosperity. And you can see on the right those different kinds of cocktails that come together. The whole of the government approach I mentioned earlier on, and the whole systemic approach I mentioned earlier on, you can see it in one of these plots. Next, please. So, but that is not enough. We also have to deep dive to say, yes, you put your word of change, you want really, what have you done? Research has shown that Liberia has done something, and they have tried to share and to be proud of, although it's not enough. We know that measures have been taken by Liberia to ease the doing business. I will not go through it, you have it on the screen. But for example, only 4 steps in several policies, instead of having the many 400 or 100, etc., to just opening a business, it was actually completely reduced to 4 steps. And here, to simplify the registration, Liberia has actually gone to 1 step in Monrovia, Tanta, and through the centralized registration. That's excellent. We are talking about the challenges, but of course, let's remember this. This is actually a foundation we can build for more reform and enforcing the reform. Look at this, the investment in incentive regime. Asset deduction. I work with many countries. I'm seeing a very big change and a plus that Liberia is making compared to other countries. The waiver and the exemption of income tax, etc., are very important. Look at here also, when we talk about the tourism, energy, and hospital, is the same. And you go on and on. Of course, there are issues. We need to strengthen the land property right. We need to digitalize the land, the cadastre, and so on is there. But let's move on and say, based on this one, investors, where are you? Next, where you can begin, you have a foundation and you have something that can be done. Don't say you will wait for everything to be done to move on. This is the kind of things you have. We're not starting from crash. We understand the good thing that was done, and we are ready to champion, to further, to scale, to transform. You can have here for each of the key sectors where you have already ventured and where you can participate. If you look at the project here on forestry natural resources, I've already talked about carbon already, but there's also the tourism and timber, etc., the ecosystem and tourism one. And here, all the impacts in Lebanon you see, I will share this one. And if you want to participate into this sector, you know where to go. First, of course, Liberia National Commission, and then Investment Commission. And you have other partners that are there showing you, making business in Liberia make more sense. CENTS. Energy, the same. Go to minerals. This is what we know. Already, Liberia has already started some very good work. It's starting. It's ongoing. It's not going the way it's accelerating. We need to scale. We need to accelerate. So you have room to participate if you want to be back. I'm being very concrete here. Because I don't want our investors to come and say, well, there are a lot of challenges, we cannot participate. No, you can participate. And by participating, that's why the co-creation and strategic partnership, you bring your value, you own, you add, you transform, you scale up. For your benefits and your benefits. So the business case and the development case is complete. Agro-businesses. I'm dreaming for Liberia to be the hub for agro-business in West Africa and Africa. Not just ex-nihilo. I'm economist. Whatever I say, I ground it into data and supported by data. If we organize ourselves, if we put this investment, and I know our dear Ambassador Anderson is very proactive and old to bring in the intersection between capital and opportunities. Only in this sector, we can get up to 25 to 28% as a quick wins, not quick fix. Here we were. Quick wins with a view to expanding the next community. The graph at D show the kind of modernization you can have and you can do. With all of you own it and be part and parcel of the plans again. Go to start. And here, I have to, just to share, I've shared what Liberia is doing well. The room for improvement, but room for all of you before you go to actually contribute. Let me say this, there is proof of concept. We did the same thing for another country, I'm not going to name it. Before they left, investors, they signed, and that's what we would like to see happen. When you sign, you will have champion Liberia, but you will get, and I am stating here on behalf of all ECA, under the leadership of the state, ECA is ready to support Liberia in that case. ECA has supported country to do it. I will not blame the country, but concrete. We move from technical, inside information, both sides, to have some prospect and have the real time, to really have some concrete impact of result. And I can discuss that more. I know we can discuss it more with Liberia. But here, you will see what the success would have done. Remember, I said it's not miracle. There are possibilities. They are not miracle. And it goes without saying that Liberia is on the right direction. You understand why I was saying no challenges anymore? We talk about challenges, but in any challenge there are opportunities. And here we have the theory of change, we have the narrative shift, and we have all what it takes to together scale up and transform. Some of the success stories from across Africa, we show that when you come as corporation and you own the business model, you champion it, not as the purely business person who will get and go back. We're talking about making the business case and the development case. And if we do that, we are partner for change, partner for transformation, partner to scale it up. You see all the data. And here, Rwanda, for example, what they did in the venture with the treaty processing sector was to transform in Rwanda. You go to Morocco, if you take a fertilizer, phosphate, they didn't just say a same thing. They changed the contract. So the legal contract is very important. And will be more than ready to supporting Liberia to review and see, because many countries, they actually was caught up in the contract they signed. Because when you sign and you didn't actually, sometimes you cannot review them. Or if you review them, you pay penalties. So how those countries were supported to deep dive into their new narrative, reflect them in all the shame, and be able to start the processing, the value contribution, so the venture approach and the win-win scenario we see them there. And that is why I would like to say it's possible. It goes without saying that it seems possible until it is done. And I would like to leave you with few messages. Number one, I wanted to say that Liberia path for cooperation and partnership for diversification is not questionable. And that's why I start with building the data and connecting the dot, building the data, the theory of change and the reality. There is no rhetoric here. It's a reality. There is no miracle here. It's possibility. There is no trying. We talk about opportunities. But opportunity that we believe in, partnership that we believe in, partnership that we own, because we are mutually accountable. And if you do that, there are facilities out there, the UN are out there, and there are many other institutions they are out there to support this country, because it's a country for the future. It's a country that has promise. I'm not saying it just to say it. I'm saying it based on our own research and prospect and also foresight. It's a country where you have to come. It's a country where, if you take the right decision, if you are committed to change and committed to be part of the pathway for change, you will find it. And that's what we would like to see. All Liberians, led by the very capable and government, has been given the first information and the direction for that. And I would like to say, Excellency, distinguished participants, Liberia stands at a crossroad. Dear investor, your time to come to Liberia is now. Because if you don't come, others will come. Believe me, there are many more who are waiting, and we will not rest until all those investors, they are seeing Liberia all over the place and questioning come. And I'm an advocate for Liberia. Sometimes I go in a meeting and I talk about Liberia, they start telling me, oh, and I continue doing it because I believe in Africa, I believe in this country. So the line stands Liberia stands at a crossroad. The choice we're making today will shape the country trajectory. And as the Irish agenda for inclusive development shines the bar forward, strategic diversity and inclusive investment are essential. That's the main motive for Liberia. But success will hinge on partnership. Please, you've demonstrated what partnership means. In the private sector, Liberia government, partners, and of course we can say the same. Liberia cannot do it alone. Liberia will be doing it with all of you, because by coming here you have demonstrated your belief in Liberia, the trust in everything is not perfect. We know nowhere everything is perfect, but we come together, build together for the cause we believe in. Let's cooperate. Let us collectively champion Liberia transformative development. Let us rise to the moment. Let us partner for progress. Let us drive economic growth that has social development content. Let us walk the talk. Let us walk the journey with Liberia. A journey of prosperity, of progress. I believe in. UNECA believe in. The US believe in. Let us do it. And now, it's no time to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Thank you. Honorable Nimen T.H. Etiquette, Senator of Greenwood County, Representative Pambule of Bond County and Chairperson on Investment at the House of Representatives, Representative Jones from IPB County, other members of the 55th National Legislature here present, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Commerce, the Minister of Information, senior government officials, Madam Job, Director of Sub-Regional Office for West Africa, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, Madam Resident Coordinator of the United Nations here in Liberia, Ambassador Anderson, CEO Nova African Ventures, Madam Koko, Senior Political Advisor to Your Excellency Joseph Newman Boyka, President of the Republic of Liberia, Presidents and CEOs of investment companies in the sub-region and around the continent, our local and international business executives, business partners from around the globe, special guests, the Fourth Estate, fellow Liberians, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As we gather here today at the Liberian Conference, the Liberian Investment Conference 2025, I am pleased and honored to invite the Honorable Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Honorable Jeremiah Kwanku,
Thank you, and please be seated. Honorable members of the National Legislature, the Dean and members of the Cabinet, officials of government, the doyen members of the diplomatic corps, international partners and friends, the CEO and members of Nova Africa Venture Group, distinguished guests, the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Before I start, let me start by thanking the guest speaker. And guest speaker,
You spoke and spoke well. I know it was a good presentation, and I know the presentation will continue in the presentation section. But one question you asked, if Liberia was far ahead of China, Singapore, and other countries in the 70s, what happened? That's what happened, for which some of these conferences are called, so that we find our roots and go back to where we came from. Thank you. The dweller of the diplomatic corps, let me say thank you too. He says small things matter. Truth. I come from name Maganta. In Ghana, at 2 a.m. in the morning, you find food to eat, shops are open. And that's why Ghana is a boiling city, and everybody wants to go to Ghana. It's a small thing, reality. And so I'd like to thank you too. We gather here today, the Liberia Investment Conference, which reflects a crucial time in Liberia journey for sustainable investment, trade, and commerce. Today I'm honored to join Excellency Joseph Human Boakai Sr., President of the Republic of Liberia, in highlighting the vast investment opportunities in Liberia, particularly in our rich mineral, tourism, and agricultural sector. As a nation with abundant natural resources, a youthful and resilient population, and a growing commitment to reforms and stability, we are laying the foundation for a more prosperous and inclusive future. I hold the opinion that investment is not just a financial transaction. It is a long-term partnership for an inclusive future. Let me at this junction acknowledge the efforts of Nova Africa Venture and the entire organizing team for visionary planning and successfully implementing this landmark conference. A conference of this nature signals our readiness to collectively strive for a united and prosperous Liberia. Our country is rich in untapped potential with mineral reserves to include gold, iron ore, diamond, and amongst others. We also boast of a fertile agricultural land and a coastal land, ripe for fishery, tourism, which offer diverse opportunities for responsible investment. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our strategic location on the West African coast gives our nation access to regional markets through ECOWAS and beyond. A few weeks ago, I commissioned modern port equipment at the free port of Monrovia to increase access and ensure efficiency. Our vision to improve our port facilities, roads, and energy infrastructure, which position Liberia as a vital hub for trade and logistics.
Our government is also committed to improving the business environment with ongoing reforms and investment regulations. We are working to provide greater transparency, legal certainty, and investor protections. We have already streamlined procedures through the Liberian Business Registry, the National Investment Commission, to support local and foreign investors. Let it be known at this conference that we are not only investing in our economy, but we are also investing in our people. The Arrest Agenda for Inclusive Development provides our government approach to human capital development through education and the preparation of a skilled workforce as the backbone of our economy. I believe that sustainable investment must be inclusive and welcome investors who share our government vision for development that benefits not only the shareholders, but also create jobs for our people. Our country has transitioned from charity to partnership. We are moving beyond our past defined by charity toward a future built on equal partnership. In this new Liberia, we seek collaboration, not sympathy. Investment, not aid. And opportunity and not dependency. We are offering partnership based on mutual respect, shared benefits, and long-term vision to address socio-economic challenges of our people. We are a government who refuse to settle for less and determined to change the negative narrative of the past. Our recent election to the United Nations Security Council as a non-permanent member is not just a diplomatic milestone. It is a global endorsement of our nation's growing leadership. It also solidifies our visibility on the world stage and signals that we are credible partners for investment, trade, and commerce. To our partners here today, whether in mining, tourism, agriculture, energy, infrastructure or technology, Liberia is ready to work with you. The time to invest in Liberia is now. We can build a future by honoring our history and uplift our people. God bless you.
Another round of applause. And I believe the Vice President was pitching our country to all of you who will be investors. This is a place to invest. And here we have a government that will protect you in your investment. Once more, let's give the big hand clap. This was the official opening section of the investment forum. In the afternoon, we will have different activities taking place. Presentation on the agriculture sector, tourism, infrastructure, and all take place subsequently during the duration of the conference. The Vice President was brought in purposely to formally declare the summit open. So before we close, the Vice President will do a photo opportunity with show Medela and how we arrange how it should be. We want to say to some of our colleagues who are here from the French-speaking countries, almost everything was done in English. We apologize. We hope you have people sitting by you who are helpful. And we'll do it better next time in terms of the language barrier.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. As we take photos with Honorable Vice President. Hello everyone, I just have to make an announcement regarding the afternoon. Hello, we have a very important announcement, so please listen up as it guides